So now let's talk about some tips about what we saw and how we solved the issue on reducing waste, boosting your margins, and improving your inventory. Let's talk about wastage here. What we saw in the market when we spoke to our customers was that wastage was not getting recorded or was recording too late. Depletion was done by instinct. So whenever you had wastage, for example, let's take the example of staff meal or staff birthday, and you decided to share 5 burgers with your staff. Well, sometimes some people might say, okay, we'll do it now and then I'll record it later. And it was forgotten. The depletion was done by instinct. And you would go, okay, a burger is what? It's 2 buns and 200 grams of meat and maybe a slice of cheese. Okay, I'll just try to do it manually and that will be it. It was impossible to identify patterns because when you don't track your wastage, when you don't follow a standard procedure in tracking your wastage, then you're not able to identify trends. And that means that you're not able to, one, be aware of those trends, and two, investigate those trends in order to fix them. 3 or 4 rather, there wasn't any employee accountability. Imagine if I have an employee, let's call him JP, and JP records a wastage of 10 kilograms of tenderloins every day. What tells me that this waste is actually wastage due to expired products and not JP stealing something from my business? So employee accountability wasn't existing because no employee would record a waste under their name. Not because I didn't want to, but because it just wasn't set up as a standard within businesses. Again, why? Because you didn't have the tools for this. And so that means that there aren't any best practices built in there. And lastly, the worst thing that you could do is to have all of this tracked on paper. And the best was on the laptop. What does that mean? It means that whenever waste would happen, let's say, for example, that you're serving mocktails and those mocktails fall or your waiter trips, you have to register this as wastage. But then you're like, oh God, okay, now I have to go back to my office. I have to open up my laptop. I have to log in into this 1990s software that we bought, and then I have to register my waste. It's so painful. I'll do it later tonight. And then the night comes and then you're so busy, you're tired. You say, I'll do it at the end of the week. You forget about it. And then it's just catastrophe from. So that's what we saw in the market when we spoke with our customers. And what we decided to do was to build a product that would answer all of these different problems. So what we did is within SAPI.
I'd also like to add the fact that these are problems we see as well with our clients. And I'd also like to add that sometimes people don't even recognize wastage as a cost. And so what happens is that you're recording your cost of sales as your invoices, you're recording your closing inventory, and then you see your margins at the end of the month. And so your margins vary from month to month. And because sometimes you just don't understand why that is. And then it sometimes occurs that there's wastage that's actually not being recorded. And that
Yes.
can be really, really difficult for entrepreneurs and restaurant owners to kind of understand what's going on and, how to quantify that so they can take action later on. But 100% what you've come up with, very common occurrence with a lot of our clients.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rehan, and I agree with you. I'll tell you something, Rehan. People would be surprised by the number of restaurants that not only have those problems, but also invested in ERP systems, POS systems, who promise a state-of-the-art, best-in-class back-of-house solution, and the number of people who not only subscribe, but also don't end up using those tools because those tools end up being too complicated. So a lot of people might be subscribed to a product like this, but don't actually use it. And the issues is quite clear, not being user-friendly. And that leads to a lot of variance at the end of the month. So going back to SAPI, so the products that we built, again, built based on these issues. First of all, the accurate recording of wastage. I've added a couple of shots from our analytic product where you can see 2 charts. The first one is the wastage value per location. So you understand the amount of waste based on your costs and the percentage that this represents, and the wastage value per type. So what is the category of wastage that is happening the most and which location is generating the most waste? And because I'm accurately recording my wastage through SAPI's products, which again, of course, we have different features that make this possible, then I'm able to identify a trend, investigate the issue, and solve it with the intent of optimizing my profits and reducing my costs. You have an automated depletion down to the raw ingredient. You have a staff birthday, you select 5 burgers, then we'll have an accurate depletion of all of the ingredients registered within your burger recipe, within the software that will deplete your inventories down to the raw ingredients. That's the power of software. That's the power of automation and interconnected modules. You have a clear tracking of events, which goes back to the analytics, where you can follow and monitor every waste that has ever happened. You can see the date at which it happened, who registered it. Again, employee accountability is extremely important, and why it happened. If you see that you've got 20% of your waste is coming from expired items, then that means that maybe you should optimize your procurement and stop over ordering or ordering by instinct, or maybe strengthen the user permissions that you're giving your users. Because what you often see in kitchens is that whoever is in the kitchen can order whatever they want and there isn't any control. And this often leads to wastage due to expired products. If you see that you have a lot of products that have been dropped, then maybe you should better train your kitchen staff in order to reduce that. That's the power of software. That's the power of data and analytics. All right. Then user tracking is what I mentioned, which is employee accountability and recording on mobile. This is so important. Don't underestimate the effects of delaying something and forgetting about something. This, at the end of the month, if you have a tool that is so complex that you decide to do it later and not now, leads to a huge variance in your business and a huge discrepancy and a huge loss of profit for you. All right. So recording on mobile, Zopio, of course, has a mobile app where you record your wastage by category. Your name is associated to it. The data is associated to it. The category is clear. Tracking is done at an ultra accurate level, which means that at the end of the day, not at the end of the month, at the end of the day, you have the analytics and the insights that you need to understand what's happening in your business and fixing it.